Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful. And for the faithful, I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Welcome, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
Well, we're alive, man. In the deepest, darkest depths of the universe and eternity, we are alive. This is our time. So I feel okay. I'm good.
We're playing
Even
hockey,
though the Oilers lost. Yeah, we're watching NHL hockey. I heard Jeff Merrick with Elliot Friedman, and he talked about his excitement about the return of hockey. And he says it brings back time. Like, our days are rather amorphous, I think,
Yeah.
When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? Doesn't really, just as long as you get stuff done. Like the rhythm of our days is upset in a way, maybe unknown in, well, shouldn't say unknown in human history. There's been all kinds of ruptures in human histories. This is actually a relatively minor one compared to some of the big ruptures. But for us, this is confusing. And he said that it brings back time, and that you have a sense, however days you're going, you have something you look forward to at the end of the day, and you're waiting for it. And there is that rhythm that's returned to our lives. And I really think it's great that hockey is back. And I'm not necessarily thrilled, of course, not with the Edmonton Oilers tonight, but I am thrilled with that. I think that's it's great to have hockey back. Bruce,
I'll say this much.
Go ahead.
I enjoyed that game. And
yeah.
It must still be early in the season, but there was some good hockey played, a lot more of it by Montreal than Edmonton. But the speed of the game and just the general intensity of it, there was a lot of action in that game, and the better team won. So you can't be too upset. I'm always reminded of that old saw. I think Casey Stengel is credited for it, talking about baseball, of course, but where he says, every season, a third of the games you're going to win, a third of the games you're going to lose, and it's what happens in the other third of the games that decides who's going to win the championship. And this was one of those third of the games that they were going to lose. Montreal had the hot pitcher in net, Carey Price. He was basically unbeatable tonight. And they were bringing their A game, and the Oilers were second best for most of the game, really. So there's no, we can't be whining and complaining that they didn't get a break or they got a call. They got beat. There's lots of lessons to be learned out of that game. Let's hope they learned some of them.
They got beat soundly, Bruce.
They got drubbed.
Was there one moment when you knew they were going to lose? When was the moment you knew or you felt? Did you have that? Because sometimes there's that moment. And I'm just trying to think. I did have I'm just trying to think what it was. Though. I think for me, it was the power play that Edmonton had early in the second period. And Price stoned Draisaitl on a couple, and I just thought,
never going to get those goals.
This ain't going to happen because Montreal. It was only 1-0 then, but Montreal was just so dominant. They'd just been so dominant up to that moment, and I just thought, it just feels like the Oilers are going to lose. And lo and behold, a moment later, the Montreal scored again, and it was over at that point. So Bruce, because this was a kind of a hideous loss, a decade of the specter of the decade of darkness rose, in the background. Our Oilers fans, PTSD. We usually do 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers, but we're going to do 2 bad things each tonight, along with with our other repertoire. We always seem to start with the good things. So let's start with your good thing, Bruce, even though that might feel a little off. But what's your good thing?
Oh, sure. I'm going to go with Kailer Yamamoto. Absolutely loving his game. Loving his game in all 3 zones. He's just such a battler and fighter on the puck. And tonight he really grabbed my attention for some of his plays in the defensive zone. In the first period, when many around him were losing their heads, he made one great defensive play where he not only recognized the danger man who was behind him and actually somebody else's job, but that somebody else had been beat. And Yamamoto shaded into the position, got his stick in, and disrupted the pass that looked like it was going to get slammed into the open net, basically. But because the right winger came all the way back below the hash marks to read and react and make the play, it turned into nothing. And another play in the first period where Edmonton was having one hell of a time getting out of their own zone. And there was one long shift, and finally the puck came over to Yamamoto's side. And remember even all the details. I just remember thinking, boy, that's a heady play that he made along the boards and below the hash marks in the defensive zone to actually beat his man and then make a calm play with the puck to get it out and get it out of trouble and facilitate the line change. So those plays, one without the puck, one with the puck, but both just thought this is a guy that's, prepared to compete and do what it takes in his own end of the ice. And of course, in the other end of the ice, he was dangerous, man. He's just quick on the puck, eh? And when a chance gets created, he does something. He does stuff with it. So tonight, for instance, he wasn't on for any goals or for or against, but his sheet reads like this: 3 shots on net, 2 hits, 3 takeaways, 1 block shot. Nothing but good things, and things without the puck, many of them.
And according to our metrics on scoring chances, Bruce, which you're still reviewing,
Right.
he made major contributions to 4 grade A scoring chances at even strength, not 1 mistake against. So that's a very good evening for a winger. And if all the wingers,
solid in this game,
he was. Okay, my good thing is Adam Larsson. He's been getting steadily better after a rancid first game, which I'm sure he would love to forget. The Oilers need him, Bruce, to be Adam Larsson, who like if he's healthy, he can be a pretty dominating hockey player. He can be a very good hockey player, and I thought he was tonight. He didn't make any mistakes by my count. Again, you're going to review it, but on grade A scoring chances against at even strength. And he made a couple contributions to chances for. He saved in the first period. There was a play where Louis DeBrusk said Koskinen made a great save, but when I was looking at the replay, I'm pretty sure it was Larsson who made the puck was going in and he stopped it from going in. So he saved one on the goal line. He had 6 hits, I think, to lead the team. So he was Adam Larsson.
4 block shots to also lead the team, including that one that was a goal saver, as you say, where Koskinen was swimming around. Koskinen made 1 save while he was flopping around on the beach, and then Larsson made the 2nd save in the same sequence. That whole first period was unreal. Montreal, it seemed like they could have scored 5 goals in the first period alone. They got 1. Koskinen kept getting away with it. Like puck was behind him. He didn't know where it was. He was out of position. He was scrambling. Like, he made some good emergency saves, but boy, after having such a quiet game and being in such control the other night, this game started out anything but. Didn't get a lot better for him either, frankly.
Yeah, I was a little bit ticked off at the first Montreal goal, like that hand pass that Petrie made to himself, because it's just such a fluky goal. But it was bound to come, Bruce, because
there
were so many dangerous moments. Even if there wasn't a ton of grade A scoring chances necessarily, they were just threatening the whole time. They just, that phrase, from the Decade of Darkness, like Anaheim or LA would come into town and run Edmonton's show. Yep. That's what's the first period. The Oilers had their, the Montreal were the show runners, and it was just. I hope we don't see a lot of periods like that this year, Bruce. I don't think we're going to, but that was a very tough period by the Montreal Canadiens, and I have to say, like, I've been poo-pooing the Montreal Canadiens on Twitter and on interviews and on this podcast, and I have to. They made me eat those words because, man, that team looked good tonight. And I don't think I think my problem is I've never seen Carey Price play well, so I'm I'm underestimating the Montreal Canadiens, but he was freaking awesome. Bruce, let's go to your first bad thing.
Yeah, it's kind of related, and I mean, and this is, let's start here. Full credit to Montreal. They were flying. They were overwhelmed, the Oilers, with good hockey, and credit where due. But one of the things they did was expose Edmonton's trouble getting out of their own zone, and they were forcing the play. They were forcing the puck to be funneled to places where Edmonton didn't want to funnel it, and they were forcing it to go to the players Edmonton probably didn't want it to go to, and they just controlled the play in Edmonton's zone, or quickly they would turn it over in the neutral zone and pour back into the zone. Well, Edmonton was struggling to make a partial line change. Like uh, it was a tour de force by the Montreal Checkers, but from an Edmonton perspective, it was poor. They were losing way too many battles. And again, I'll say this is one of those games where it's a learning experience, or at least it better be, because if they don't learn from that game, they're going to get the snot kicked out of them again on Monday night. You know,
What's your bad thing though?
Edmonton's zone exits.
All the zone exits.
Yeah, they just couldn't. They couldn't make the plays crisply, and they were forced to play in their own end of the ice for far too long. Too many turnovers behind their own blue line. Too many soft passes, and like you say, credit to Montreal, but Edmonton's supposed to be in the same league as Montreal. That they should be able to play against that kind of pressure and make some things happen. And
yeah, sorry, I was just
especially early in the game.
A little distracted there because I'm just tweeting. I wrote the game grades already, and I just am tweeting them out. So, alrighty, Bruce, my bad thing. Okay, I'm going to start with the young guy Caleb Jones, who I have had high expectations for heading into this season. He has not hit the ground running. He's looked tentative and nervous out there. And tonight, man, he against the team that was coming on, he did the exact worst thing. He gave them a power play by taking with us. Stupid, is that the right word? With an unnecessary, needless.
The penalty and not the player. Yes.
Yeah, the stupid play, not the player. He's a smart guy and a smart hockey player. Usually, that was a stupid penalty, and I'm sure because
they call that every time now.
They do, and it was an interference call. The Montreal guy dumps it in, and what does he do? He gets in his way and blocks him. You just know they're going to call that, and you can't have that kind of mistake by Caleb Jones. You have a thought about that play?
If you hit the guy right when he releases it on the dump in, that's one thing, and sometimes I call that, and I get upset.
Yeah.
But when the guy dumps it by you and he takes two steps and the defenseman's got two steamboats to think about it and he still gets in the guy's way and takes him into the board, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
I had zero problem with that call.
I had zero problem as well.
I didn't like the play, but I sure wasn't mad at the ref. Let's put it that way.
Montreal's last goal as well. Jones loses a battle at the blue line. It wasn't even a pinch in. It was just kind of a lost battle. He just was not. You got to win those battles, man. And Puljujarvi was also kind of floating around and not figuring out he's got to cover for Jones as he's trying to make this battle. There was 2 goals, Bruce, that way this game, where Edmonton Oilers defensemen, they're supposed to pinch in the NHL these days. It's an aggressive league. If you do not pinch, you do not win. But the forwards have got to cover. And on the first one, RNH didn't cover for Nurse. And on this one, Puljujarvi failed to cover for Jones, and it was a breakaway for Thomas Tatar, who you do not want to have a breakaway. Although it would be nice if Mikko Koskinen stopped the breakaway this year. I mean, I guess he has, but I'm just anyway. But Jones, he wasn't off. He's not on. I've seen him. I'm sure that I've seen a better player in last year, and he just seems like the moment's getting a little bit too much for him, and he better figure it out because there's Chris Russell and there's William Lagesson who are itching to play, and I would not be surprised to see Caleb Jones sit next game and to see Russell in the game, Bruce, at all.
No, I wouldn't be surprised to see Russell out there because I mean they have looked disorganized behind their own blue line, and they have they've been giving up too many uncontested shots, and both of those things are Chris Russell. Sorry, I don't know where my phone is, but it's going off. Anyway, there was Russell one play tonight with Jones where he actually did make a good play in his own end to possess the puck and to move it out of his zone, but he got into the neutral zone and he was looking around for what to do next with it, but he wasn't skating while he was doing it, and some Montreal guy came up right from behind him and just took it off him, and back into the zone they went. I mean, so he wasted his good play, and it wound up being, another attack by the Habs, because he was indecisive and not moving while he was deciding. I mean, that's a bad combination, and it kind of burned him there. He looked like a young defenseman on a few plays tonight, and I mean, in fairness, he is a young defenseman. But lessons need to be learned, man.
Bruce, he's in his 4th year as a pro. Like, he's not that young a defenseman. Like, he's actually entering his prime years. So as a defenseman, so he's got to get it. He's got to. And this is a confidence problem. So like being negative, like he's got to just make up his mind. If you're not going to make it as an NHL Caleb Jones, at least go for it. At least try to play your A game. At least, do it and with commitment. And, if you're not good enough, then, but I just see a tentative player out there. So he's got to get over that. But I could easily see Kukuk and Larson next game. And, Kukuk moving up into the top 4, so to speak. And who we see Russell and Barry. So those could be. I'm going to bet those are the line pairings for the next game, Bruce.
We saw lots of pairings tonight.
Yeah,
and
we
in
did.
The third period, we saw Jones and Bear playing together, the Bobsey twins that we've been following for all these years. Where every year is one ahead of the other, but it's always been so close. Now here they are both in the NHL, and tonight they were both on the same pairing. But after they got burned for that breakaway goal by Tatar, Bear never saw the ice again. And I hope it wasn't a physical thing and it was just the coach giving him a breather after what was a very tough night for Ethan as well.
What was your next bad thing, Bruce?
I'm going to dump on Coach Dave Tippett a little bit. And he got out coached tonight by Claude Julien, who's an excellent coach. Used to be Oilers minor coach years ago. But that's not the thing. The thing with me is I absolutely don't understand this. Why in a garbage time in a game that Montreal is absolutely thumping Edmonton, there's no doubt, there's 0.0% doubt about who's going to win the game. And he's got one goalie left that's an NHL goalie, and he's been bombarded now with 111 shots in 4 days. 3 games, 4 days, 111 shots. And he's got another goalie sitting on the bench who's never played a minute in the NHL. Why in the hell wouldn't you pull your starter, give him a breather in the third period, bring in the young kid, let him get his feet wet, and then the next time, maybe you got to start him one game down the road while all this other mess is sorted out. I don't want his start to be his first ever minutes in the NHL. I'd rather see him deal with those nerves in a 4-0 deficit situation where he's not going to be costing the team a game by making a mistake. I just don't understand it from either perspective. You rest Koskinen, you don't want to risk hurting Koskinen. Plus, you have the chance to get the kid in garbage time and let him make his debut under a little bit less than full pressure. I just do not understand this decision, David. I mean, coach knows stuff that we don't know. Maybe he's got his reasons. Maybe he's thinking, geez, the way Montreal's playing tonight, I could put him out there for one period and he could get totally lit up and get his confidence destroyed.
That could be.
But
so let's imagine that might have been in his head. So there might be a good reason.
I had 3 points to pull him. One was the beginning of the third period. One was right after the 5-0 goal. And one was at second TV timeout halfway through the period. Obviously, at that point, any comeback is totally off the table. They could have played 10 periods against Carey Price tonight, and I don't think they would have got 5 goals, let alone in 10 minutes. And yet, the change never came, and Koskinen just stayed in there and faced the rubber barrage until the end. It just baffles me. Normally, I like to try and think along with the manager and the coach. Say, why are they making the decision they're doing, as opposed to, well, I would do this. Why aren't they doing what I think? It's more like, well, why are they doing what they're doing? In this case, I just don't understand why he did what he's doing. So I'm going to label it a bad thing. Hopefully someone will ask him in the post-game presser why, and maybe he'll give an explanation, and maybe I will exonerate him then. But right now I'm saying, what are you doing?
Here's another couple, Bruce. Zach Kassian. Congratulations, Zach Kassian. I understand that your wife had a baby today. Congratulations. It means he couldn't play hockey though, so they're missing already Zach Kassian. They're big. They're physical force, right? Mm-hmm. Montreal's a pretty big team now, and I can understand. We've been negative about Jujhar Khaira, but if you're missing Zach Kassian, and suddenly you're kind of a smaller team because of that, why take out Khaira as well at the same time? So I didn't like that, but Bruce, this is my pet peeve with Tippett. I think I still can't get my head around breaking up the dynamite line, and they're now 2 wins and 6 losses since they broke up the dynamite line before the last game of last season, I believe. I think that's correct. And Bruce, it is the simplest thing in sports. If you have something that the other team can't stop, you keep doing it until they stop it. That's how you. That is one of the iron rules of sports and I think of successful coaching. And I think it was a huge mistake of Tippett in the playoffs last year, and I think it's a big mistake now. I just think you have that line, man. You have a line that can change the momentum of the game, win the momentum of the game repeatedly for your team with their skill and offensive ability. Go back to that line. And I know that they're trying to get line mates for McDavid, but I think Cahoon could play with McDavid just fine. And Josh Archibald, that was the move you're going to make. Go back to that.
He was in Cassian's spot and doing the Cassian things of physics, playing the body and trying to win puck battles in the corners. That was, I think, the concept. At least I understand why the coach made that choice. I don't get.
Yeah, I know that. I get it too, but come on, like he's not the guy. Even Nygaard would.
Yeah, I'd be interested in Nygaard in that.
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying the Archibald.
One in the net once in a while.
Archibald and McDavid's line to me is like you're loving Josh Archibald a little too much, coach. Even though he's a very lovable player because he hustles so hard, but he's a checker. And anyway, all right. So my bad thing is. It's somewhat related to this. Well, I just kind of enunciated that it's the Oilers had too many small forwards on the ice tonight and I think that's why they had that decade of darkness feel to it, Bruce, where they were just physically outmatched, I think, a lot of the time. I don't know how the Montreal cycled the puck, like how they were winning the puck constantly. It seemed like strong board play was a huge part of it. And the wingers on the Oilers were unable to advance the puck out. And so I'm not going to name any of the small forwards in particular. It's just like the mix of your team was wrong tonight. The mix of this team was wrong tonight. And maybe they thought, oh, well, Montreal's big and maybe we think they're a little bit slow and we're just going to beat them with our speed. If that was the plan, well, you were going to have to outwork them in any case. And that didn't happen. And Montreal just seemed to be it had that, especially when like they were going up against these big defensemen like Joel Edmondson and Weber and Petrie's a big guy too. It just felt it had a little bit of that boys against men feel to it, and that's never a good feeling when it's your team that's the boys. Bruce, Are we on to the numbers?
Let's go and do numbers. Here's mine. Here's my number, 1 minute and 3 seconds. That was the average ice time of an Ethan Bear shift in this game. But he narrowly won over Darnell Nurse, who averaged 1 minute per shift. 3 other D-men averaged over 50 seconds per shift. And only Slater Cuckoo kept it under 50 seconds at 46 seconds. So 2 long shifts for all of the defensemen. But a huge part of the reason was that they kept getting stuck in their own zone where they couldn't get out or they couldn't get over center so they could make it off to the bench. And we have, in the cases of Ethan Bear, who I highlighted there, he had a shift in the first period, 2 minutes and 19 seconds, which not surprisingly included a Montreal goal. And then he had a shift also in the first period of 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Like, that's how you build up those averages. He had a couple of shorter shifts later in the game, but overall he had 6 shifts that were longer than 1 minute. And to me, that's, for a D-man, you don't mind even up to 50 seconds, but anything over than that, they're sucking wind. And usually second to the puck and maybe a little bit softer on the puck battles or the, position battles and stuff in front of the net. And it was more the symptom than the disease, because they couldn't get the puck out, they couldn't get themselves off the ice and to the bench. But those long shifts were, that's how it shows up statistically, that they were having a hell of a time getting out of their own end as the shift lengths become too long. And
if I'm not mistaken, Bruce, Bear had a chance to get off the ice a couple, at least. Like I was watching, there was one shift where he why didn't you get off the ice? It was about halfway through it, and I just thought, this was part of the there was a bit of a lack of discipline on the Oilers in terms of short shifts. On the power play, we saw early in the second period, Bruce, the whole unit stayed out pretty much. I think it was pretty much the whole unit for the full 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Montreal,
Right after.
McDavid, instead of getting off the ice, Puljujärvi's out on the ice. He's full of energy. He's chasing after the puck, and there's McDavid, who's kind of tired, and they both kind of go for the same puck. McDavid should have been hightailing it to the bench there, if you ask me, to get off the ice, because Puljujärvi might have won that puck. Anyway, there's a bit of a malfunction at the junction center ice, and the puck goes the other way. At least Edmonton didn't crush McDavid or Puljujärvi with a hit, because that looked like it was going to happen. But the puck went the other way.
I remember
and
that,
then Nurse, who was just fresh on the ice, goes for the big hit. He goes for the big hit, and Montreal goes in and scores. Like, it was this lack of discipline through the whole game, Bruce. That shift was typified by a lack of discipline, and it was very frustrating.
Nurse was trying to respond to Edmonton's physicality. Thought, you're going to take a run at our guys, I'm going to take a run at your guys. And I understand that thinking. It's part of hockey. But he did not execute the hit, and he got neither really the man nor the puck, and he was caught out of position on the subsequent Montreal rush. I think that was the first Tatar goal, where the one with the great shot to the roof of the net from the face-off dot. But the hole was there because the Oilers were running around.
That was a great shot. Like, it was far enough out to the side, but I was inclined to say, is that really a grade A scoring set shot? But it was a perfect shot. Like, it was truly a perfect shot. It was like one of the Draisaitl shots. So we will often say, like, if it was anyone else shooting the puck but Draisaitl, we wouldn't count that as a grade A shot. Because it's Draisaitl, it's a grade A shot. And Tatar's the same boat. Like, some players, you have to account for skill in terms of beating the goalie. And anyone else shooting from there, they're not scoring. But there's a few guys who are scoring, and Tatar's one of them.
Let's put it this way. Would you blame Koskinen on that goal?
No, I didn't. I didn't blame him.
He just roofed it from.
I did blame him on that,
and he put it right in there.
I did blame him on that terrible rebound, Bruce. Like, come on, the one that he put in off Bear. Mm-hmm. That was not a shot that he had to put back into the slot. That was one that should have gone into, like, that was not good. Anyway,
into his breadbasket.
Yeah, he's been pretty. Like, even Koskinen has been okay this year. Like, I don't know what his save percentage is. Probably not that great, but
12 goals on 111 shots, so a little under 900.
Not good. All right, Bruce. We'll end on a bit of a high note, unless we return to the negative after
892.
892. Yeah. Ouch. You can't win. You cannot win. So my number is 4, and that is the number of absolutely pretty scintillating one-timer shots that Leon Draisaitl had on the power play. And normally he would definitely score on one of those, maybe two. Yeah. His average, I think for him, that's about a 35% shot, Bruce. I think we worked it out last year, actually.
Yeah, 1 and 3, basically.
Yeah, it's about a 1 and 3 shot. So he could have got 1 or 2 goals. And Price, that was a fantastic goaltending performance by Carey Price. It really was. So good. He made
one of those saves. He came I was sure it was going to be a goal because they hit Draisaitl and he just hammered it from the dot. And Price had to go all the way across from the right post to the left, and he got over and he was waiting for that shot. And I just thought, I was very confident that one was going in the net. And I have to admit there were some expletives uttered in the McCurdy living room in the moments following that save, but they were expletives of admiration for Carey Price.
Oh, like Shuzbutt or
things like that. Yeah.
He reminded me of like Vladislav Tretiak, like the crab in net. That's what
I'm thinking
Tarasov wanted to be.
I'm thinking he heard you taunting him on one of our podcasts last year, but maybe not.
I don't think I've I think I've taught the Canadians, but I have a healthy respect for Carey Price. I just never, like I said.
I love Carey Price, but the night that his career save percentage against the Oilers fell from 861 to 860, you and I had a bit of fun with it, and it was just one of those things.
They played it in the dressing room before the game, and they were all just, we are going to show those cult of hockey faithful idiots.
Yeah, well, they got the last laugh tonight. We had it that night, and it was Montreal's game tonight. And full credit to them; they fully deserved the 2 points. They deserved the 3 points that the league should be awarding for regulation wins because they convincingly won the game without need for any gimmick or anything else. They just flat out beat their opponent.
Works for me, Bruce. 3 points works for me. That's what they have in the EPL.
Yep.
and wouldn't mind
And
seeing that.
all the IHF tournaments and leagues, European leagues, and only because it makes mathematical, logical, consistent accounting sense. So I've been on the soapbox for 20 years, and I ain't getting off till they fix it.
And may you have 20 more years on that same soapbox.
Well, maybe they'll fix it. That'll be good.
They're not fixing it. They're not. Yeah, they're not fixing it.
Here comes the NHL.
Maybe they will. Finally, and it was weird because finally the shutout gets broken on kind of a B grade shot, right? Like cuckoo shot. I rated it as a B shot because it was well outside.
It off his head, or?
Yeah, but it was outside the scoring chance zone, Bruce. Like you can have a look at it.
Maybe like he had it was a puck bounced right back to him, and it was a quick second shot.
You know, it was just a bit of a fluky goal.
Kind of, like, so, sure.
But Price was not too happy. He's thinking I should have had that, and I agreed. I think he should have had that. So, not to upset you, Carey Price. You're a great goalie, and we don't want to upset you in the least. We want you to be happy, fat and happy, and complacent. So that was the game of the century. You're the best goalie we've ever seen, and good luck to you in the future. All right.
Especially against Calgary.
Yeah. Bruce, another Oilers season. It never isn't. It's always entertaining. Hopefully it goes. Hopefully it goes well. I still think it's going to go well. They really missed Kassian tonight. I have to say. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. They really missed the big guy. And there's people who think the Oilers don't need Kassian, and maybe you're right. But if they didn't have Kassian, they would need a guy exactly like Zach Kassian. Or a couple guys like that. You need big, tough, physical players in your lineup. And if you don't think that you need them, then we disagree on winning hockey in the NHL. You got to have a mix. Ken Holland says it. You got to have a mix, and they didn't have a mix tonight. They were a little bit off tonight in that. So I'll leave it there, Bruce. Any final thoughts?
Back at it Monday night. The Oilers hopefully will do what they did against Vancouver and drop some X's and O's and maybe change some matchups and maybe switch the lineup around a little bit and find the combination that it's going to take. And maybe Montreal, on the other hand, will be a little fat and happy after having won the first game of the two-game set and not play quite so well, and that combination will work in Edmonton's favor. But it sure needs to change from tonight, because tonight the better team won handily.
Indeed. Thanks, Bruce.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this is another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.